The sky over the city was dark and silent. There were no birds, no laughter, no joy. Hospitals were full, but doctors had no answers. Children were dying everywhere, and no one knew why. The illness came like a shadow, quiet, fast, and cruel. Sarah sat next to her son's hospital bed, holding his small hand. His name was Liam, only 7 years old. His skin was pale, and his breathing slow. Machines beeped around him, but they didn't help much. Doctors said he had maybe 2 days left. Maybe less. Sarah had done everything. She had sold her car, her house, even her wedding ring. She tried every doctor, every clinic, every miracle cure. But nothing worked. Her son was slipping away, and she couldn't stop it. That night, as Sarah sat crying in the cold hospital room, her phone buzzed. It was a message. No number, no name, just a line of glowing text. I can save him, but you must come alone. No humans, no weapons. There was also a location, an old observatory far outside the city. At first, she thought it was a cruel joke. But the message continued. You have 6 hours after that. The offer is gone. Sarah looked at Liam, his chest rising and falling slowly. She had no other choice. If this was a trap, so be it. If it was real, maybe, just maybe, her son could live. She left the hospital, her eyes red and tired. She didn't tell anyone. She drove through empty roads under the moonlight. No cars, no noise, just the sound of the engine and her heartbeat. The observatory was old and broken. Dust covered the windows, and weeds grew from the floor. But the door was open, as if waiting for her. Inside, everything was quiet. The air felt heavy, like something ancient was watching. Then, without warning, a strange hum filled the room. The telescope moved by itself, pointing toward the sky. A blue light glowed from beneath it. Sarah stepped closer, and a portal opened, round, spinning, glowing with stars. She took a deep breath, thinking of her son, and walked into the light on the other side. The world was not Earth. She stood on a black metal platform floating in space. Stars stretched all around, silent and beautiful. A figure stood ahead, tall, thin, and not human. He had silver skin, long arms, and glowing eyes. He wore no suit, yet stood in space like it was nothing. I am the envoy, he said, his voice calm and deep. You came because of your son. Sarah nodded, too shocked to speak. How do you know about Liam? She asked finally. We know everything about your planet. He replied, we watch, we study, we choose. Sarah stepped back, fear rising inside her. Choose? What do you mean? The envoy walked forward slowly. Earth is not what you think, he said. It is part of a quiet harvest. Your people are being tested, silently. Sarah clenched her fists. You said you could save my son. Then do it. The envoy looked at her for a moment, then raised his hand. A hologram appeared. It was Liam, lying in his hospital bed. His vitals blinked red. Showing only 42 hours left. We can save him, the envoy said. But there is a price. Sarah didn't hesitate. Anything, I'll give anything, just save him. The envoy tilted his head. We do not want money or blood, he said. We want a memory, one that only you have. Sarah blinked, confused. What memory? Many years ago you were used, he said. Your government placed something in your mind. A vision, a moment. You don't remember it, but it's there. Sarah shook her head. That's impossible, she whispered. I'm just a mother. The envoy stepped closer. You are more than that, he said. If you give us this memory, we will heal your son, and he will wake by morning. Sarah's heart pounded. She didn't understand it all, but her son was dying. And this was her only chance. Do it, she said. Take it, whatever it is. The envoy reached out, touching her forehead with one finger. A flash of light, a scream inside her mind. And then, a picture, a sound, a memory. She saw a door, metal and black, buried under rock, somewhere on the moon. Inside it, a glowing orb pulsing with power. The image vanished, and Sarah fell to her knees, dizzy and shaking. It is done, the envoy said. Your son will live. Sarah looked up, her vision blurry. Who are you really? She whispered. The envoy smiled for the first time. We are the beginning of your truth. As the stars spun around her and the portal reopened, Sarah heard one last sentence in her mind. This is not the end, human, only the first door. The stars faded behind her as Sarah fell. She didn't know if it was a second or a lifetime. Colors twisted around her. Blue, silver, black. Then, suddenly, she was standing again. But not on Earth. She stood in a giant hall, quiet and glowing. The floor was smooth like glass, with strange lights under it. Tall pillars stretched up into the dark sky, and floating above her was something like a planet. Small, but alive, spinning slowly. The air was warm, but she didn't feel wind. She could breathe, even though there was no sky. It was not space. Not a room, not a dream. It was something else, something older. Footsteps echoed, slow and calm. From the shadows, the envoy stepped out again, but this time, he looked different. His body still glowed silver, but his shape changed, softer. More human, almost like he had read her mind and chosen to appear. Less alien, you are inside our memory field, he said. Here, we do not hide anything. Sarah looked around, her voice shaking. Why me? Why are you showing me this? The envoy walked past her and touched a floating symbol in the air. Suddenly, a giant screen lit up, showing Earth. Not as it is now, but as it was, years ago. She saw fires, floods, wars, and then silence. This is your world as we saw it, he said. Falling, collapsing, repeating the same mistakes. Sarah watched cities disappear, oceans rise, skies darken. Tears filled her eyes. We tried to fix it, she whispered. We tried. To survive, the envoy turned, his eyes glowing brighter. Survival is not enough, he said. Others came before you, other species. Do you know what happened to them? He touched another symbol. Planets appeared, hundreds, maybe thousands, all dead. Burned, broken, silent. They were harvested one by one, the envoy said. Not by us, but by something much worse. They call it the quiet sweep. Sarah stepped back, her heart racing. What does that mean? Why are you telling me this? Because Earth is next, he said calmly. It has already started. Sarah remembered her son, the sickness, the silence, the doctors who gave up. You mean, the illness? She asked. Yes, he nodded. It is not a virus, it is a signal. Sarah froze. A signal? The envoy raised a hand. A new image appeared. A strange black device buried deep under Earth's oceans. It was planted on your planet 100 years ago, he said. It weakens your kind. Slowly, makes your species easier to manage. Sarah felt cold. Manage? Yes, he said. Because humans are not supposed to fight back. Silence hung in the air like a heavy blanket. Sarah couldn't breathe for a moment. Then why save my son? She asked, why help me? The envoy walked closer, his voice softer now. Because something changed. When we took the memory from your mind, we saw something unusual. What? She asked. A code, he said. Hidden inside your memory, left there by someone else. A human scientist, long dead, but very clever. Sarah blinked. You mean someone used me as a message box? Yes, he said. He left. Coordinates. A place buried on your moon. And we believe it holds a weapon, or a key, or something powerful enough to stop what's coming. Sarah stared at the glowing screen. So now what? We go there, the envoy said. But you must choose, Sarah. Return to Earth and live your life quietly, or come with me and change everything. Sarah didn't speak for a moment. She thought of Liam, breathing again, alive again, but if what the envoy said was true, he might still be in danger. She looked up, her voice strong. Take me to the moon. The envoy didn't smile, but there was something in his eyes, a flicker of respect, maybe hope. He raised his hand, and the space around them began to shift as Stars moved like waves and light wrapped around her. Sarah heard a whisper in her ear. You are the first human to choose. And then, darkness. A single second of silence before the next chapter began. Asterisk. Sarah landed hard. Her knees hit something solid. She looked up, breath short, eyes wide. She wasn't in space anymore. She was standing in a silent chamber made of black stone. It looked ancient, yet clean, untouched by time. Strange lights blinked on the walls, forming patterns she couldn't understand. It felt alive, like the room was watching her. The envoy stood still beside her, his hands behind his back. This is the memory core, he said. This is where your deal will be completed. Sarah looked around, confused. You already saved my son, didn't you? Yes, the envoy nodded. Your son is recovering, even now. But the full deal is not finished. A low hum filled the chamber. In the center, a glowing chair rose from the floor. It was shaped for a human, but made of light and glass. You said you wanted a memory from me, Sarah said carefully. But I don't remember anything special. The envoy stepped forward. You remember more than you know, he said, but it is locked. Buried deep, hidden for your safety. He touched a panel, and a display appeared. On it was a glowing sphere, pulsing like a heartbeat. Inside the sphere was Sarah, but not like now. It was her from years ago, younger, smiling, standing in a white lab. Sarah blinked in shock. That's not possible, she whispered. I've never been in a lab. I've never seen this place. The envoy's voice turned serious. Because your memory was wiped by your own people. You were a carrier, chosen for a secret project. Not because you were a soldier, but because you were ordinary. Sarah stepped back, her voice shaking. Why would they do that to me? The envoy raised his hand. Because they didn't want the aliens to find the data, he said. So they placed it where no one would look, inside a mother who lost her past. Sarah touched her head. Suddenly, flashes of images appeared. In her mind, fast and painful, a white room, a glowing object, a scientist saying, we may not survive, but she will. Then darkness, then years of forgetting. She gasped and looked at the envoy. That's what you want, that memory? He nodded. It holds coordinates to a weapon, or maybe a warning, we don't know yet. Sarah stared at the glowing chair. And if I give it to you? You will lose it forever, he said. That part of your life will be erased. As if it never happened, Sarah took a step toward the chair, then stopped. But what if it's more than a memory? She asked, what if it's a part of who I am? The envoy was silent for a moment. Then he said something unexpected. You don't have to give it. Sarah blinked. What? You have another choice, he said. You can keep it, remember. Everything, and carry the danger with you. But if you do, they will come for you. Who? She asked, her voice low. The ones who planted the quiet signal. The ones who are not yet watching Earth, but will be. Sarah looked at the chair, her hands shaking. Two choices. Forget and be safe, or remember and be hunted. One would save her life. The other might save the world. She closed her eyes, thinking of Liam. He was alive now, breathing because of her. Maybe that was enough. Maybe she didn't need to be a hero. But then another thought came. What if Liam's children, or their children, suffered the same fate? Would silence protect them? She stepped forward and sat in the chair. It was warm, almost gentle. I'm ready, she said. The envoy nodded once. The lights dimmed. The hum grew louder. He touched the panel, and the sphere of memory began to spin as it pulled the secret. From Sarah's mind, she saw the truth. Not just a lab, but a vault hidden under the moon's surface. A doorway sealed with ancient alien symbols, and a voice in her memory whispering, if they find this, Earth dies faster. But if we use it first, we may survive. Tears rolled down her cheeks as the memory faded. She felt something inside her fade too. A part of her lost forever. The light stopped, and the chamber went quiet. Sarah sat still, breathing slowly. It's done, the envoy said. She opened her eyes. I don't remember what I gave you, she said softly. You gave us a future. The envoy replied, now we must go to the moon. Is Liam safe? She asked one last time. Yes, the envoy said. But now you must save everyone else. The chamber floor shifted, forming a new path. At the end of it, a spacecraft waited, smooth, silver, and silent. As Sarah walked toward it, she didn't feel fear anymore, only purpose, and far above them, beyond the stars, something began to stir, as if it had heard the memory being unlocked. Asterisk, the stars didn't look peaceful anymore. As Sarah stared through the window of the alien ship, they felt cold, watching. Something deep in space had heard the memory unlock, and now it was listening. The ship moved silently toward the moon. There were no engines, no fire, no sound, just smooth, endless motion. Like a thought cutting through the dark, the envoy stood beside her, hands behind his back. Are you afraid? He asked. Sarah didn't answer right away. She thought of her son, asleep on Earth, breathing, living. She thought of what she gave up, a part of her life, gone forever. But in its place, something had grown. Not just fear, but fire. I'm ready, she said. The ship began to slow. Ahead of them, the moon came into view, not silver and quiet like she had seen in books, but covered in strange shapes, lines, towers buried under dust. The dark side of the moon, the side humans never explored. As they approached, a section of the surface opened like a mechanical flower, and the ship slipped into the hollow moon. Inside was something breathtaking. It wasn't just a vault, it was a city. Endless towers curved like ribs of a giant beast. Lights pulsed in. Patterns, ancient and intelligent. The walls were covered in symbols that shimmered when she looked at them. This is not ours, Sarah whispered. No, the envoy said. This was built long before your kind walked on Earth, by those who fought the sweep and lost. Sarah stepped out of the ship, the floor under her feet humming gently. She followed the envoy through wide halls, strange echoes bouncing off the walls. But the place felt empty, like it had been waiting for someone. They reached a large door, shaped like a circle, smooth as glass. It didn't open with buttons or keys. It opened when Sarah stood in front of it. The door blinked, scanned her silently, then cracked open. Inside was the vault. The chamber was round and deep, with a floating core at its center. The core pulsed with orange light, slow, steady, alive. It looked like a heart made of crystal and metal. What is it? Sarah asked. The envoy stepped forward. A mind, he said, or what's left of one. A library of warnings, weapons, and choices. Sarah stared at the core. It pulled at her, like it wanted to speak. She took a step closer, and then the lights dimmed. A low voice filled the chamber, old, cracked, speaking in a language she didn't understand, but somehow she felt it, not in her ears, but in her bones. The core recognizes you, the envoy said. You carry the key, the memory left by the old scientist. A beam of light rose from the core, showing a map, not of space, but of time. She saw Earth's future split into two paths. One path showed cities burning, skies red, oceans dead. The other showed a world united, powerful, but watched by something large and distant. Sarah's voice trembled. Are those real? They are possibilities, the envoy replied, but only one will happen. Sarah looked at the control ring near the core. She could activate the vault, unlock the knowledge and send it to Earth, but the warning was clear. If they used this power, the true enemy would awaken. The sweep would know Earth was fighting back. She looked at the envoy. What would you do? She asked. We cannot decide for you, he said. This is a human story now. Sarah looked at the core again. If she did nothing, Earth would stay asleep, waiting to be harvested. If she sent the signal, Earth would wake up, and so would the enemy. She closed her eyes and placed her hand on the control ring. The vault came alive. Lights shot across the walls, data spinning like storms. A pulse was sent, fast, powerful, straight to Earth. Knowledge poured into hidden satellites, secret bases, and open airwaves. blueprints for shields, signals, warning systems, and more. Back on Earth, scientists gasped, generals panicked, hackers screamed with joy. Something had arrived, and it came from the sky. But in the vault, things were not quiet. The core stopped glowing, the room fell cold. The envoy looked up, his face tight. "They've heard us," he whispered. Sarah's chest tightened. Above the moon, something ancient had opened its eyes. A distant signal returned, sharp and loud. A countdown began, and far away, something massive turned toward Earth for the first time in centuries. The vault was no longer quiet. It shook beneath Sarah's feet, a low pulse echoing through the floor like a heartbeat made of stone. Red lines spread across the walls, warning symbols in a language older than any human memory. The core, once warm and glowing, now flickered like a candle in the wind. Something had changed the moment Sarah sent the signal to Earth. Something ancient had noticed. The envoy moved quickly, his hands dancing over alien controls. But even he looked unsure for the first time. "The system is waking up too fast," he said. "It was not meant to be opened so suddenly." Sarah gripped the edge of a glowing pillar to steady herself. "What happens now?" she asked. The envoy looked at her, his eyes dimming slightly. "You activated a warning beacon," he said. "Not just to Earth, but to everything that once hunted this place." Sarah stared at the swirling lights. A message was playing inside. The core, a recorded voice, full of static and fear. She couldn't understand the words, but she understood the emotion. It was a final log, the last voice of someone who had seen the end. Suddenly the floor opened, not breaking, but unfolding. Like the vault itself had been waiting for this moment. A platform rose from below, and on it, a strange device. It looked like a weapon, but also a key. It pulsed with the same energy that lived inside the core. Sarah stepped forward, pulled by something she couldn't explain. As she reached out, the vault spoke, not with words, but with thoughts. Visions filled her mind, one after another. A field of stars turned to ash, a fleet of machines feeding on planets, a group of beings standing in a circle, holding the same device now in front of her. And behind them, a giant shape, something with no face, no name, no mercy. The sweep. Sarah stumbled back, breath shaking. She looked at the envoy. "You knew this was coming," she said, not as a question, but a truth. The envoy didn't deny it. "Yes," he said quietly, "but I did not know you would awaken it this quickly. Can this stop them?" She asked, pointing to the device. "It is not a weapon," he replied. "It is a choice." Sarah blinked, confused. "A choice?" "Yes," he said, walking closer. "This can send a deeper signal to Earth. Not just technology, but awakening. It can unlock human potential that has been dormant for centuries. But if you activate it, Earth will no longer be invisible. The sweep will see your species as a threat." Sarah looked at the device, then at her shaking hands. "And if I don't use it?" "Your son lives," the envoy said. "Your people survive for now. But one day, the sweep will arrive and Earth will be unprepared." The vault dimmed, waiting. Everything was still, like the entire galaxy was holding its breath. Sarah remembered Liam's face, his soft voice asking, "Will I be okay, Mom?" She had no answer then, but maybe now she did. She walked up to the device, her heart pounding. As her fingers touched it, her mind filled with clarity. She saw Earth not as it was, but as it could be, united, fierce, awake, not running, not hiding, but standing. She whispered, "Then let them see us." The device responded, light pouring out like a rising sun. It rose into the air, spinning, pulsing, singing in a sound Sarah had never heard before. Back on Earth, across screens, devices and minds, people stopped. They looked up, confused, some afraid. They didn't know why, but something inside them changed. Soldiers paused mid-march. Scientists dropped their tools. Children stared at the sky and smiled. Something had awakened, not just in machines, but in hearts. Inside the vault, the envoy spoke one last time. "They will come now." he said, but so will something else. Sarah turned to it. He looked toward the stars. Hope, he whispered. Real human hope. Far above the moon, in deep silence, a distant shape blinked to life. Cold, massive, moving. The sweep had noticed, and it was not coming alone. Asterisk space was no longer quiet. It twisted and moved, as if something giant had turned in its sleep. Something old, something heavy, something that had just opened its eyes. On Earth, strange things began to happen. People around the world heard sounds in their minds. Not voices, not words, but pressure, like the sky was leaning closer. In hospitals, machines blinked in patterns no one understood. Satellites spun in strange orbits, and birds stopped flying mid-air. The stars seemed to shift, ever so slightly. And for the first time in human history, everyone felt watched, high above. Just beyond the dark edge of the moon, it arrived. It was not a ship. Not a creature, not a machine. It was a warden, built by the sweep, a guardian of silence. Its shape changed constantly, sometimes sharp, sometimes liquid, always watching. Inside the moon vault, the air changed. The walls stopped glowing. The lights froze. The vault knew what was coming, and so did the envoy. He looked up, his voice low. It is here. Sarah felt it too, not as sound or sight, but in her chest, a cold pressure, like something was reaching through her skin too. Touch her bones. She turned to the envoy. Can we fight it? The envoy didn't answer right away. The warden is not meant to fight, he said. It is meant to erase. The vault began to seal itself. Doors closing, systems locking. The ancient city beneath the moon was preparing for war, but its weapons were buried, old, asleep for too long. Sarah stepped toward the core again. There must be something we can do. The envoy looked at her. There is a way, he said. But it is not fair, and it is not safe. I don't care, she said. Tell me. The envoy walked to a hidden panel on the far wall. He pressed his hand to it, and the wall peeled away, revealing a chamber. Inside was a chair, shaped like the human nervous system, glowing softly. This is the interface, he said. It links your mind to the vault. You can speak to the warden directly. Sarah stepped back. You want me to talk to that thing? Yes, the envoy nodded, but not with words, with memory, with emotion, with instinct. The one thing humans still have that machines cannot understand. Sarah looked at the chair, then at her hands. She remembered the last time she made a choice, when she gave away a piece of her memory to save Liam. Now, she was being asked to offer everything. If I do this, what happens to me? She asked. You will be changed, the envoy said. Your mind will touch something it was never designed to hold. Sarah walked forward slowly. If this stops it from erasing Earth, I'll do it. She sat down in the chair, and it closed around her like water. Her eyes turned white, and she fell deep into code, into symbols, into fire. She found herself floating in a place made of memories, hers, but twisted. Liam laughing in the garden, her husband's voice calling her name, all flickering. Like old film, all crumbling at the edges, and then it appeared, the warden. A face without a face, a question without language. It looked at her, but also through her. Sarah felt her mind start to crack, but she pushed back. She screamed with emotion. She didn't say words, she showed them. She showed the warden her son's eyes. She showed it humanity dancing, falling, building, laughing, failing, trying again. She showed it love, raw, human, real, and for a moment, the warden hesitated. Paused, its form flickering like a weak signal. It had never seen this before. Not from any other species it had erased. Sarah pressed harder, her mind burning like fire. She gave the warden a final memory, not her own, but one buried in the vault, the image of the last species the sweep destroyed, and the last child they tried to spare. The warden began to shake, its shape unraveled, pieces falling into light. A sound filled the chamber, not a roar, not a scream, but confusion, and then it shut down. Just like that, gone. Sarah collapsed in the chair, her body shaking. The vault lights returned. The floor became still. The envoy rushed forward, touching her hand. "She did it," he whispered. "She stopped it." But Sarah was not the same. Her eyes glowed faintly. Her voice was quiet. "I saw it," she said. "I saw all of them. The warden was only the first. Others were still out there. And they were waking up." Silence returned to the moon, but it wasn't the silence of fear. It was the stillness that follows a storm, the kind that comes after something powerful has been changed forever. Sarah sat in the interface chair, her body still, her mind far away. The vault around her hummed softly, no longer shaking, no longer afraid. But inside Sarah, something had awakened. Her heartbeat was slower now, but deeper. She didn't just feel human anymore. She felt more, like a thread had been tied between her soul and the stars. The envoy stood nearby, watching her with quiet respect. "You did something no other species has done," he said. "You made a machine hesitate." Sarah opened her eyes slowly. "They don't understand love," she said softly. "Not real love, the kind that chooses pain." The warden had been silenced, for now, but the vault's core showed a different truth. The message had already gone out. The sweep had heard the noise. And others were now watching. But something had shifted. Earth was no longer a sleeping world. It was awake, glowing with new data, old secrets unlocked, new ones being written. Back on Earth, the signal Sarah sent had changed people, not just with knowledge, but with feeling, around the world. Parents hugged their children tighter. Soldiers laid down weapons without orders. People looked up at the sky not with fear, but with curiosity. The human spirit, once scattered, was slowly pulling itself together. In a hidden bunker deep under the Arctic, a boy named Liam sat up from his bed. The sickness was gone. His body healed faster than doctors had ever seen. But something else had changed in him too. He looked at the window and whispered, "She did it." Back on the moon, Sarah walked to the vault's edge. She looked down at Earth, spinning gently below, still small, still flawed, still beautiful. "What happens now?" she asked. The envoy stood beside her. "Now you send the message," he said. "Not to them, not to the sweep, but to your own people." Sarah turned to a console that rose from the floor. It had no buttons, no screens, just light. It connected directly to Earth's broadcast systems, news satellites, deep radio towers, quantum relays. It would reach every corner, every ear, every screen. Sarah took a deep breath, closed her eyes and spoke. "This is Sarah Morgan. I am not a soldier, not a leader, just a mother. But I stood in front of something terrible, and I didn't run. Because I remembered what it means to be human. We make mistakes, yes, but we also grow. We forget, but we also forgive. We fall, but we get back up. Always the universe is bigger than we thought. More dangerous, more beautiful. But it's watching us now, wondering who we really are. So this is my message to every person on Earth. Wake up, look up, and stay human. Not perfect, not powerful, just human. That is what makes us strong." The message echoed across Earth like a heartbeat. People cried. People cheered. People listened. In that moment, humanity wasn't separated by borders or belief. They were simply one. Sarah stepped away from the console. Her face calm, she looked at the envoy. "Is this really the beginning?" she asked. He smiled faintly. "No," he said. "It is your second chance." A doorway opened behind them. Not mechanical, not alien, just light, warm, and golden. A way home. Sarah stepped into it. Her journey complete, her soul changed. And as she vanished into the light, the vault closed quietly behind her. But above them, far beyond the stars, something else watched, not ready to destroy, but curious, because for the first time, a human had spoken with more than logic, more than weapons. She had spoken with heart, and the universe listened.